Most landlords think you have to pay for a good property management software, but that's just not true. I used both Apartments.com and Innago, two of the best free solutions out there, and each one does something that the other doesn't. So in this video, I'm going to show you what's the best fit for your rentals. Number one, let's talk about price. Both Apartments.com and Innago are both 100% free to the landlord, which is awesome. It's not a free trial. It's not free for a certain number of units, and then there's a higher tier plan. Nope, they're both 100% free. However, your prospective tenants might have to pay some fees depending on what services you use. So within Innago, when you start collecting rent, in order to do a bank transfer, it is a $2 fee per bank transfer that the tenant would have to pay. For the background and credit check, it is currently $35 per tenant that applies. On Apartments.com, there is no fee for doing a bank transfer when your tenant is set up to pay rent. So that is a big plus. When somebody is going to apply through Apartments.com for the background and credit card check, it's currently $29. So just a hair cheaper. And the prices always change, but I followed both of these for a while, and the Apartments.com prices are always slightly cheaper for both of those two things. Next, let's talk ease of use, because it doesn't matter how many features a particular software has. If it's not easy to use, you won't use it and it'll be ineffective. So the good news is Apartments.com and Innago are both very intuitive and easy to use and have modern interfaces on your computer. So if you're accessing it from your laptop or your desktop, both softwares are good to go. However, Innago definitely shines once you get mobile. And because the majority of the people access their internet on a mobile device, this is a big plus. So Innago is the only one that actually has a dedicated mobile app, both on the landlord side and the tenant side. And it's an app, you download it, it's great, it's easy to use. Apartments.com, they do have an app. However, the app is only one for renters. So for all the landlord tools that are on there, you can't access that through the app. They have sort of like a mobile website, but not a dedicated app for the landlord tools. And then even on the renting side, it's really good when you're looking for a prospective tenant. So like the listings, the applications, all that's good. But then once they become a tenant, then the mobile app doesn't really help your tenant for maintenance requests and pushing rent through. And they have to more or less do that on the computer or through the mobile website. So that's a big plus on the Innago side. Let's move on to rent collection features. This is the number one reason most people end up getting a property management software, is they want an easy way to collect rent instead of doing checks. So I did a whole video about my top features for every rent collection tool. The good news is both of these tools, Apartments.com and Innago, meet my whole criteria and do all 5 things that I feel are important. Number one, automatic late fees. You want to be able to assign late fees automatically so you're not the bad guy. An email to pay rent. So before rent is due, an email saying it's due, an email when it's late. So just reminders to pay rent. The next thing is multiple tenants being able to pay. So not just having one tenant paying, but they're still, of course, all responsible for it. The next thing on the list is a rent ledger that is available both to the landlord and the tenant, so everybody can see what rent is due, all that jazz. And then lastly, having a credit card option. I don't necessarily want my tenants to pay via credit card, but having that as an option is super powerful. So both systems do all of it, and they do it well. However, like I mentioned before, the bank transfers on Apartment.com are free, so Apartments.com gets a win in this category. The next thing that sets a lot of property management softwares apart is how they market and list your property. So both systems will allow you to list your property on their platform, and then that will be sent out to multiple websites. So this is sort of market specific. In Innago, they list it to a couple places, including Zillow, and you list it one place and it gets syndicated out. Apartments.com, same deal. You list it on Apartments.com, and this one just sort of gets syndicated to Apartments.com's ecosystem. However, they do have a very expansive and big ecosystem, and this is more or less what they were built on and what they do, and they just sort of added the property management stuff on the back end. If I had to guess, I'd probably say Apartments.com is probably the more powerful lead source, but I don't know. That's market specific. After a prospective tenant finds your listing online, the next thing that will set property management softwares apart are the tenant screening tools. So The first screening tool is the application, and both Innago and Apartments.com have pre-built applications that are pretty good. One huge advantage though of Innago is you can customize the application and add additional questions. So for example, I always like to add the question, how long will you live here? I always like to add questions like, how many vehicles do you have? Just capturing more information about the tenant. So you can add custom questions. You can also add your logo or your business name on top of the application just to make it look a little bit more professional on Innago. And if you want to embed it in your website, it's a little bit easier to do that with Innago, or you can just like list it and host it on either of the two platforms without your own website. Unfortunately, over on the Apartments.com side, they do have a pretty okay application. It's pretty easy to use, but it is fixed and you cannot add any questions. As far as other screening tools, they both do their screening through TransUnion, so that's good. The only difference is Innago will offer an extra feature called Income Insights. You don't have to use it, but if you want to add that on for your tenants to pay, it's just an extra way to verify their income. It will connect to their bank account and see the different transactions and see their average income. So again, just feature you don't have to use, but another way that tenant screening could be better in Innago. Next, let's talk about leases. Getting a lease signed is an essential function of a property management software. This is one place where Apartment.com shines over Innago. So in Apartments.com, you can create within the software state-specific leases and get your tenants to sign them. So that's pretty cool. I can't comment on how good those leases are for all 50 states, but it's a cool feature to have built right in the software. On Innago, on the other hand, they don't have the leases built in. What they do offer though is you can bring in your lease document and have it all be signed within Innago, sort of like DocuSign would do. So that's what it can do, but they aren't pre-built in there. So that's one downside of using Innago. After you onboard your tenants, aside from paying rent, the next common thing that you'll probably interact with them on is maintenance requests. So both Apartments.com and Innago allow you to put in maintenance requests online, which is pretty cool. So you can, put your unit number, you can upload pictures, add a description, all that jazz. And then once the maintenance request comes in, you can add notes to it as the landlord, and that's pretty cool. However, Innago shines in this category because of a couple of reasons. One, it has a mobile app for the tenant, which makes it pretty easy to put in the maintenance request right on the app. And then number two, when you put a maintenance request in Apartments.com, it just goes to you. In Innago, you can filter that to go to multiple people if they're on the Innago system. And if they're not on the Innago system, you could hit a button to turn the whole maintenance request into an email that you could just email off to somebody directly from the platform. So that part, the ease of sharing it, is a reason that I think Innago is a little bit better for the maintenance requests. So up next is a huge underrated feature on property management software, especially the free software / super cheap softwares, is collaboration. So the ability to bring other people in, add users, and share the information that you have stored within the software. So comparing Apartments.com to Innago, Apartments.com gets sort of a thumbs down here because you can't have other users sign in. So I'm a big proportion of my business and not doing everything myself. I have somebody who does bookkeeping for me, so they need to be able to see who's paying me. I have people who do maintenance for me. So with Innago, on the other hand, you can add multiple users on there. So you can add a maintenance, you could add an admin person, you could add multiple users with different roles, which makes running a team, even if you have a couple of properties, makes running your small team a lot easier. So on the collaboration front, Innago definitely wins. Okay, so which software is actually better for you? I would say if your primary concern is advertising your place, onboarding a tenant, and collecting rent, then Apartments.com is probably your better choice because they do have a vast network to list the place. The tenant screening fees are slightly cheaper. You have those state-specific leases built right inside the software, and the rent collection for bank transfers is 100% free to everybody. On the flip side though, if you want the more robust solution, Innago is the one to go with. It just flat out has more features in there. You got the dedicated mobile app. You have the ability to add users and collaborate, the customizability. And, at some point your business won't just be you. So the longer term solution, in my opinion, is probably to use Innago. But again, that's up to you. If you're interested in other software comparisons like this, leave a comment below and let me know. Otherwise, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.